Welcome. We're going to talk during this session about the importance of regional cybersecurity center. The title of the session is Think Global, Build Local. And we will explore some of the different aspects and some of the different models that around the world, government, civil society, and industry have put in place to drive capacity building on a regional level. For this session, we have an esteemed panel, which is sitting on the stage. And I will introduce them super quickly. I will introduce them in alphabetical order, so you can wave. And I, in advance, apologize for butchering any names. I'll start with Lina Areng, who represents the EU CyberNet. We'll talk a little bit about the work in Latin America. Giacomo Asenza from the World Bank, a Slovenian cyber ambassador to the Europe. Gilles Schwurer from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in France, and Siaslav Vaipuna, I hope, the GFC coordinator for the Pacific Hub. In the session, I wanted to be as interactive as possible, so the team on stage will jump in and try to answer different questions. And we also have a session at the end that is interactive Q&A with the audience. So if there are questions that you want to ask, comments that you want to make, have them ready for the end. But we will start with Ambassador Rupo, who will talk to us a little bit about the Slovenia's efforts in this area, and particularly in the Western Balkans, but more broadly as well.
Thank you so much, Kaya, I appreciate your time to meet with us in such a late hour during our conference here. I think the regional capacity centers are, of course, are playing a pivotal role in strengthening local, regional, and international ownership, especially on the actions in the cybersecurity area, which are quite common nowadays. I learned that CFC counted 850 plus cybersecurity projects around the world. And I think that all have some kind of a regional aspect. So I think it's important that these centers or projects, they serve as sharing the knowledge. And if we have a center, there is a hub where the knowledge is shared. It fosters collaboration and empower stakeholders to address the evolving challenges in the digital landscape. I think that establishing regional centers involve looking into the good practices which we are conducting in the world, especially through needs assessments of the specific regions, and specific cybersecurity needs are, of course, need to be tailored in specific capacity building programs. It doesn't say that we cannot say that cyber is pretty much different in different parts of the world, but the practices and the adversaries might change or might operate differently. As part of this is also securing sustainability of such hubs or regional ownership of the hubs. And I think that it's important that it has several dimensions. It has to be well funded. It has to have super support of the hosted country. It has to have a transparent decision-making process. It has to have regional ownership dimension. And of course, needs to be working on a training program which is designed by the needs of the region. This is very important because we think that regional authorities sometimes are, or national authorities sometimes are locked into own cybersecurity or own security issues. So to look across the border, to look for partnerships, and of course to have a very broader aspect of how to move as a region on. I think that one topic is also important, which I need to mention, and then I'll stop, that the centers should strive to be sustainable in a way that the experts which are coming to a training become trainers in a later stage. So it's the point of training is not what was maybe said before. You are training all the time, or you train once. So you become a trainer, and the cycle repeats with your knowledge and your expertise and partnerships you're building in such training centers. And one of those centers we built together with France was in Montenegro last year. It's operating now, and it's I'll speak about it a bit more later, but it actually we screened the situation of the region and tried to fix and set the program which will correspond to the actual needs. And it's meant to be a regional ownership of the center in a few years' time, but the seeding is coming from us, from France and Slovenia, and I think it's the most important part is that we try to develop some kind of a partnership relationship, sharing the expertise, and trying to encourage them to move forward on a speedy way in terms of securing the digital environment. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great introduction, actually, to the points and the challenges and the opportunities we're going to talk to throughout this session. And I wanted to build on it to sort of see, and I think this is a question to all of you, or whoever wants to answer it. What is the differentiating factor in regional capacity building centers? How do they differ from local or international initiatives? And how do they empower the regional ownership? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I represent the Latin American Caribbean Cyber Competence Center, established by the EU in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. And that was the first EU-funded cyber competence center in the world. And we are pioneering in many respects, discovering how to operate, developing our models and our role in the region. And we're happy to see that we are actually amongst the group of centers who are also pioneering with different models. So this exchange is extremely useful. In the previous panel, one of the panelists mentioned that it is important also to develop national technical capability in order to maintain the competence within the country. Have research and development done within basically each country, which is, of course, a novel thought, but it might be complicated. So having a more regional approach to cyber resilience, cyber capacity building just makes sense, I guess, because we all share the same threats, and we are fighting with the same weapons, so to say, which are our brains, our people. So cyber capacity building centers are in a way a effort to build this collective brain in the region.
And Gilles, perhaps you work a lot in the region. I think Senegal in particular. What are some of your experiences in this space, and sort of how does working regionally work in this particular context?
Thank you, Keja. Well, I belong to the French MFA, and especially from a directorate who leads a lot, which leads a lot of projects over the world in different fields, but especially in cyber. And as you ask for the region and Western Africa, especially, we have a cyber school in Dakar with a regional vocation, and well, and in hand with Senegal. Well, the partnership is very important. So with Senegal, the main partner, France launched this school in 2021. This school deliver cyber training into public agent for Western Africa, of course, but well, more broadly to Africa. And in the aim is to enhance the cyber capacity building in 3 main blocks, a little bit like we do in the Western Balkans with Slovenia and Montenegro, for cyber crimes, cyber security, and cyber diplomacy. And well, this school has already trained about more than 900 trainees from the region. So, well, how it works? Is it your question?
Yeah.
How it works? Well, there's a staff with about I think there's 17 in the school staff. Of course, the majority is from Senegal. There's only 2 French. The Director General is Senegal also. He coming from the cyber special divisions of the Senegal, Papa Gay. Unfortunately, he's not here. But well, so first, this school have to, in fact, identify the need of the region, of our partners from Senegal, but all the region. And, well, there's a dialogue that we establish with our different partners to know exactly what are the needs and to provide the training adapted to this need. With experts from Senegal, from France, but from all the region also. And it's a challenge because, as you know, it's a rare resources, this is the occasion to say that we use also experts from the private sector. Well, we're looking for synergy. We are looking for partnerships, complementary action. In fact, with other projects that could exist also in the region.
Thank you. No, thank you. I think this is super interesting. And I think we'll pull on some of these threads as we go on. I think Saya, I feel like I can't see you, but you know, from the looking at the GFCE model and sort of the regional hubs model, I think you lead the Pacific Hub. Do you want to? It's a slightly different from sort of the government investments that we heard of before. Do you want to give us an overview of how that model works and how it could be a good model for other regions to consider as well?
Thank you. So since 2022, as you mentioned, the GFCE has adopted a regional approach.
We can't hear. Can you get mine?
Okay. Thank you. So since 2022, the GFCE has adopted a regional approach in which it focuses on facilitating demand-driven cyber capacity building. As part of this regional approach, it has established regional hubs in the Americas and Caribbean, Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific, where I'm from, addressing the need for inclusivity of local communities when addressing cyber gaps. So we are not a cyber capacity building center as such, we're actually a hub, not delivering cyber capacity building, but sort of coordinating and facilitating cyber capacity building in the region. Similar to the focus of the main GFCE, which focuses on coordination, regional and global cyber capacity projects, initiatives through the GFCE working groups, sharing knowledge and expertise by recommending tools and publications, and matching individual needs to cyber capacity to offer support from the community through the clearinghouse mechanism. The Pacific Hub aims to extend that focus to the Pacific countries, ensuring that it fits into the Pacific ecosystem. So to this end, the hub in its 16 months in operation, we have partnered with the Oceania Cybersecurity Center in organizing the inaugural Pacific Cyber Capacity Building Coordination Conference, or the P4C, which is an initiative of the partners in the Blue Pacific. This conference was attended by 13 countries from the Pacific and the donors, where we discussed cyber capacity building, what has worked, what needs to be improved, and things like that. The hub also chaired and organized quarterly donor coordination calls with some of the major donors in the region, aiming to deconflict projects and events, and also provide opportunities to co-fund and carry out warm handover of projects. Also, with this donor coordination, we share insights and experience from the region. Donors share that with each other, and also each donor providing updates on their activities in the region. We also have hosted monthly webinars on different cyber topics with expert speakers from the region, not just for the Pacific region, but also spilling over to the Southeast Asia.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting to explore how how different models sort of work towards the same result, and sort of what are some of the pros and cons of different ones. So I think something to think about as well as we continue conversing. And then Giacomo, last but not least, the World Bank does, of course, a lot of work in supporting some of these projects. You want to tell us a little bit about some of the specific projects in this space on the regional level that you've been driving?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, first of all, the World Bank is a bank. So the main instrument that we have is financing. So we finance through loans, grants, or guarantees, mostly digital development programs, and of course, cybersecurity is a component, a crucial component, I would say, of these projects. Now, when it comes to regional projects, I would say that the World Bank operates at two different levels. At a more granular level, we operate with national governments to ensure that all the governments in an area, in a geographic area, can implement minimum level of maturity. But then we operate also at a more broader level with regional entities. And here, for example, we have a representative from IGAD, the East African Community, the African Union, with which we have ongoing projects. And at this regional level, our projects are more aimed at coordinating the different capacities that are being implemented. And typical areas of engagement are, for example, the harmonization of legal frameworks, the establishment of some sort of cooperation mechanisms in terms of incident response, information sharing, and of course, joint programs for skills development. Now, as everyone mentioned here, the regional context can be very different. So there is not an engagement model which can be replicated everywhere. Every single model needs to be tailored somehow. So the World Bank offers also some advisory services in order to help our clients, so the counterpart, the governments or the regional entities, to really assess the situation and prioritize some actions that can be implemented based on the governance, on the mandate, but also on the level of trust that there is among all the regional stakeholders. And these advisory services are bank executed. We have the Multi-Donor Trust Fund. I'm sure that everybody has heard of it. So they are financed by the bank and executed by the bank, but it's really to support the client.
this is actually really, I like that you pulled on some of the sort of examples of good practices already of what you're thinking about. And I want to turn to Lina actually with this in terms of there's so many different governance models. There are so many different geographical, cultural contexts. What are some of the good practice examples that you would pull from, what should you do to make it a successful regional center?
Well, that's $1 million question from Microsoft. Well, I think you need, first of all, local buy-in from the host nation. This is very, very important. Political commitment for the center to be sustainable and to have a regional kind of beacon effect. You also need to deliver really impactful services or programs which would target the concrete capability gaps in the region. And this center needs to have a face of the region. So, for example, LAC4 also, it's established by the EU, but it doesn't intend to be something put in Dominican Republic by the EU, just projecting EU values, standards, etc. But rather, we are looking at it as a bi-regional initiative, connecting Europe and the Americas, involving also all the stakeholders on the ground, private sector, academia, regional organizations, and NGOs who are already doing things on the ground. So we really want to complement on the activities that are already happening there, and definitely not duplicate, because none of us can really afford that. And this is our shared responsibility to deliver change and be impactful. So I think these are the core components of a center, a regional center, to be successful, because it local ownership, very important, and impact that it makes, not only today but also in the future. So you have to have also forward-looking perspective in mind.
Other panelists, do you agree? Are there other things to add? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I'm talking not only about regional centers, but more broadly about regional projects. A suggestion that we always give to our clients is to adopt a bottom-up approach. This is because in a regional context, normally there is not an entity which has a clear mandate for cybersecurity. And even when they do, they rarely have the capacity to enforce a cybersecurity agenda. So this means that in the end, the success or the failure of a project depends exclusively on the support of the stakeholders involved. So when I'm talking about a bottom-up, it means that the stakeholders should be really involved from the real beginning. They should really, it should be a demand-driven model. You have to implement programs that are requested by the stakeholders and that they support. And bottom-up, I would say it's also proceeding step by step, which means, for example, some of our clients, they want to establish regional certs. But the regional certs is not only the hardware, the software, the processes, and so on, but it's also built on trust. So this is not something that you can start with this. Normally, it's something that is created. I don't know. For example, at the beginning, you deliver trainings, you do knowledge sharing, then you do some information sharing, and then you end up with something more formalized. Let's say something more established. And also there is all the governance aspects of regional capacities. So again, with the regional cert, where do you put it? How is it funded? And especially in regional context where they are not really used to cooperate, at least not on cybersecurity, it's a huge struggle. In a recent workshop, we asked who wanted to host the regional cert, And all the countries raised their hands. But then when we asked who wants to pay for it, all the hands went down. So, I mean, this is, it's really important to build this type of cooperation.
I think this is very helpful. So from sort of the theoretical framework, maybe I look at you, Ambassador Rupel, how, you mentioned the Western Balkans Center and efforts. How did you tackle some of these issues that Lina and Giacomo talked about?
Yes, thank you. I think that actually you need to be aware what are the actual needs of the area. I completely agree. We also scout for the right country to be placed where the center is placed now, politically acceptable by all the neighbors around. So geopolitical aspect is very important, regional, of course. Then you need to see that if there is enough of political will, financial support from their side, maybe just in-kind donation of premises or something like that. But on the other hand, I think it's important that you include actual trigger for the countries which are around and which are trying to participate in the center. So they have to be stimulated to come. They have to be. It has to be an attractive program. You need to secure secure experts which are not there only for one time, but they upgrade their knowledge, so you don't repeat the training program from year to year the same, but you need to upgrade the training so that the trainees, which are then trainers at home, are trained, are increasing or gaining their knowledge and their expertise. It's very, daily changing domain, digital and cyber. So I think it's important to have such a, beside funding and all the rest, to have a attractive program, to have a good link. Especially in our case, we have national coordinators in each of the Western Balkan 6 countries, which are responsible to scout for the right people to come for the right trainers to come to the training, because if you have the wrong audience, then you did wrong big mistake. So it doesn't reach the aim of the training. So you have to have a good connection with experts from the countries which are sending the trainers or trainees to your center. You have to have secure funding, governance, and you need to have also structures in advisory boards of such centers or hubs, which has a say also from the governmental perspective, or those who are responsible in each country for the working of that kind of regional center. And what was mentioned before, I think that we as governments or experts, we have to say that without multiple approach or multi-stakeholder approach, we are not fit for such a job. So we need to have companies which develop softwares. We need to have ethical cyber guys which are showing how the ways are going forward. And for example, in our center, we have 3 domains. One is cyber capacity building. It is a training center which actually has computers, and there is a simulation, for example, for training of the critical infrastructure officers. There is a cyber attack, how to stop it physically on the computer. It's not like just an explanation on PowerPoint or something like that. So the second one is cyber crime. So you train how to do the cyber investigation, how to protect, how to prosecute, and then the cyber diplomacy and partnerships, which also include the partners. So it's all interconnected. All the areas are crucial for the center. That region is feeling that it's their center. It's not ex cathedra preaching of something which has to be done. Even in Slovenia, we had 2 days ago big cyber attack, ransom on our electricity grid, but still, we cannot avoid it. So we grow with such a incidents, and I think that it's right that we make all possible that we are all in the same boat. So we are not in a lonely island or somewhere which cannot be reached by cyber hackers. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, when you talked about, at least to me, I think the Western Balkans is, although there are definitely differences in the countries, there's some differences in languages, but, I look at some of the other regions. I look at LATAM, I look at the Caribbean, I look at West Africa, I look at the Pacific. How do you account for the differences within the region? Obviously, it's better than the international approach, it's closer, but it's still very different, right? How do you navigate those? Maybe Lina, you start and then.
It definitely is a challenge, but a challenge to be accepted, I guess. Because we are dealing with around 30 countries in Latin American Caribbean region, very, very different. And this is why we are taking a sub-regional approach and trying to build communities and capacities and harmonize the approaches to crisis management, incident response, and different policy and regulatory aspects in the sub-regional formats, Andean region, Central America, Southern Cone, the English-speaking Caribbean. But having the center in Santo Domingo also has a kind of unifying element, geographical unifying element, or kind of bonding element between the English-speaking Caribbean and predominantly Spanish-speaking, but also Portuguese-speaking Latin America. So it's kind of a natural geographical bridge. But I think it's easier to justify, or not justify, but motivate countries to collaborate in smaller formats because they have incentive to do that in other areas. Like you have economic incentive, you have e-services, you have interoperability between the countries that need to be, the platforms need to be secure. So they have that incentive and putting cybersecurity considerations on top of that, or kind of mainstreaming cybersecurity, namely all other socioeconomic integration processes that are going on in the sub-regional formats. I think that's easier than to develop a model that should fit all in a very diverse region.
Saya, Jill?
As you say, it's challenging, and in the region we can notice that in fact the the French-speaking and the English-speaking countries, we could improve the collaboration, and maybe it's a role of the regional center to try to find synergy to help them to work together. And we spoke about national coordinators of the Western Balkans. Just before I talk about a dialogue between the school and the partner. It's very practical, a practical way to, in fact, identify the need, but also maybe common issue in the region. And for instance, for Dakar and for the Western Africa, we noticed that there's an emergency to find and to provide another tools for the data extraction tools for all the law enforcement of the region, and not only the French-speaking or the English-speaking, for everybody. And because in fact this is also a reality. Selbright left the country, so this withdrawal is a very sensitive subject. So the role of the school is to find solutions and propose it to the partner of the region. It's what we try to do. But also this dialogue enables us to, in fact, know that there's also all technical requirement. For instance, there's an issue also with the location for IP address in all the region. So it will need big work with the local operators, and between also our developer and the local developer also to find and to adapt a tool called denatting. We have the solution, but we have to adapt it to to Western Africa. But there's also no other issues. We noticed that there's no dialogue, and you have to install dialogue between the law enforcement of the region and the GAFA. Because, as you say, and everybody know, well, we all use WhatsApp, Signal, and so on, social media, criminal also. So if our investigator couldn't send a request to WhatsApp and without having a reply, it's a problem. And it's not only a problem, a local problem. It could also impact our inquiries in Europe, in US, in Asia. I don't know where. Yeah. And well, so we try to find synergy with UN Odyssey to find to pose the problem and to find solution for all the region, because of course, like you say, we need funds to equip all the law enforcement with a new tools for the data extraction. So France and maybe Senegal could provide some, but we will have to also find a financial solution.
Perfect. No, so Saya, I feel all of you talked about the importance of dialogue at different levels. You know, whether it's in between, among the region, between the donors and the recipients, but sort of more broadly with the tech sector, for example. So Saya, the vast majority, a lot of your work is driving that dialogue. How do you make sure that it continues and that people are actually exchanging information? You know, we talked all about the challenges, the opportunities, but you know, how do you concretely? What are some best practices that we could learn?
Thank you. So, as I mentioned before, one of what we have sort of done in the region is the cyber capacity building coordination conference of the P4C. This is at this conference it presents the opportunity for the Pacific, the recipient countries, to actually share with the donors what's actually working, what's not, and how they want capacity building to be done. The donors are actually open to that, because they are, they're funding that platform to share that information. So the idea is after that conference, there is an outcome document that would outline how the Pacific would like cyber capacity building to be done, and then this would be an annual conference. So again, next year we'll have the same conference, and the idea is that we're not talking about the same problems again, that we're talking about solutions and what are the progress that has done so far, and any emerging challenges that needs to be addressed. So that ensures that that there's improvement in the ecosystem and how cyber capacity building is delivered.
Are there similar learnings from elsewhere? Otherwise, I have a difficult question. So I feel like I'm going to look at Lina again. But no, it's for... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to mention something which we always forget, that we are now, today, one of the esteemed speakers said BBC. So it is born before computers. But we were all, I think, at least I hope, most born before cyber domain developed as it is. So I think that what is important is that we introduce cyber curriculum into the schools. I think that most of our kids, even in, I think, globally, are not having a subject of cybersecurity in one way or another, being it on a specific cyber or from mathematical or physical or other aspects, computing, science, ICT, and so on. But still, I think that if we introduce the cyber curriculum on at least secondary school level and then into the universities, we will gain more experts and I'm talking about the Western Balkan region as well as in Slovenia, and I think in EU, we all lack experts in this area, and they are mainly taken by best paid jobs, and we know where this is. So it's hard to maintain talents in the system of keeping the cybersecurity on a national level. And I think that common denominator should be that there should be a strong link between companies or tech companies and national authorities. As we have a case in financing, I think there is a strong link between finance. If you look into the City of London and Foreign Commonwealth Office of UK, I think there is a quite exchange of experts going in both directions to have some kind of a joint effect or joint approach to the financing. Then now we can maybe see that kind of an effort also from tech companies to move, to share something, and they do share, and they are returning as well, which I applaud. But still, I think that there is should be some kind of a general agreement between the experts which are trained in the centers or hubs, and not conquered or tricked to the private sector as well, which is a big problem for I think majority of the governments, which cannot compare the salaries which are in the private sector. Thanks.
I think that's very fair. And maybe touching upon the financial aspects overall. I think you've all, and after that, I will probably have two questions can be asked from the audience. But how did you go around in each of your different, I think, capacities to secure funding for the regional initiatives, and how do you encourage the regional the local ownerships of the regional initiative, and to ensure they have sustainable funding over the long term, and again, political buy-in. Can regional centers help with the political buy-in on cybersecurity? I feel like that's been a problem, particularly in emerging markets. I mean, actually everywhere, but getting governments to focus on cybersecurity at the right level, I think, has been a struggle for like a while. Anyway, yeah. Today?
I start with a difficult question, and I think through our center we try to bring about culture change to make the passive beneficiaries into active contributors, because there's a lot of talent in our beneficiary organizations and countries, and we should not underestimate their capacities and also resources. For example, what we try to do, although our center is EU funded, but it's probably not will be funded forever and ever. So we are trying to hand over some of the functions also to the region, to other implementers and countries in the region as well, to contribute with what they can, because they have strengths in some fields and they want to share it with the region, because it's a shared responsibility. It's the implementer and the beneficiary relationship should be a partnership, and I think it's increasingly becoming a partnership if you involve the beneficiaries also in the planning process and give them the responsibility also in the monitoring and evaluation, and then they feel I think more of the ownership. What we just a concrete example, what we're trying to do is we are trying to engage countries in the region that are more mature, who have functional CSIRTs, SOCs, and encourage them to share this experience with the other countries who are just starting this process. And we find that this has been it's a very appreciated approach. And we want to do it more, to combine the expertise that we have in Europe through our EU Cybernet expert pool, where we also have experts from the region, and we're combining these two expertise, and we win, because it has to be a two-way street. It can't be a one-way street, and we all benefit from that and contribute to our shared secure cyberspace in that way.
Okay. Here.
I think also the fact you have a project in a medium or long term to send to have a location, to have a center with the aim to become a hub, cyber hub, a regional cyber hub. The fact you send our expert, to have permanent expert in the Western Balkans, but also in Dakar or in South Africa, for instance. Well, it could help. It helped to this approach helped to in fact secure some partner to be with us and to go ahead and to also participate to the funding. For instance, in some of our project, we ask EU, and we try to convince EU that you have complementary action, that we search synergy with the others, and so it can secure a little bit. It's a question of trust, of need of trust, and we'll see the result at the end.
Yeah, I think it's more that you psychologically studied the situation. For example, on the Western Balkans, the countries have taken the turn of digitalization without associating such development and evolution with the alignment with the resilient cybersecurity and framework. So they were aware. They realized when the attacks happened in 21, 22, and they got ransomware, data breaches. They got denial of services, which culminated in some kind of a political pressure that they need to do something. So I think that the general awareness of bridging the cyber security gap has become a matter of kind of sovereignty for the country. So they adopted that they need to do something with the cybersecurity policies on their domain. So as we joined forces with France, we scout, as I mentioned, we looked which country would be the most probable. We found Montenegro. They did the in-kind donation of the premises where we run the center. On the other hand, the countries we would like to get along is that they send the trainees on their costs. That's the first stage, which we are not there yet. So the initial step, Slovenia and France are financing the operation, and Montenegro is hosting the hub, the center, Western Balkan Cyber Capacity Center. But still, I think it has to be some kind of testing period that they realize that they are gaining something. That they're gaining if they participate, if they maybe finance the trip or the hotel for the participant in the center. On the other hand, we are trying, of course, to make a sustainable center, to make it a very lean international organization, which will be established by 3 countries so far, Slovenia, France, and Montenegro, but open to all countries of the region, as well as other countries to join. And then you can reach also for the funding outside of the bilateral fundings. So be it different projects or different donations from different countries, that's also one option, so that you can also get experts from tech companies, which can maybe share their knowledge with specific pro bono activities in that center. So you can be more operational if you have some kind of a proper structure and proper governance of such center.
Thank you. I'm looking at the audience and also worrying at Francesca because I feel she will yell at me. But are there any questions? I feel, yes, we probably have time for the one. I'll come over.
Thank you very much. Mine is not question per se, but maybe it may require some answers and then contribution. My name is Said Osmano from Economic and Organized Crime Office, Ghana here. I'm a cyber crime investigator and then digital forensic expert. I also do part-time training at the university. Now, to bridge the gap when it comes to cyber crime investigation and other things, including capacity building. I'm of the view that aside the training, when we add some kind of knowledge sharing skills, like recently we went to Senegal. I think I met Honorable, and then we did a lot. Everybody from different countries, the French, the English-speaking country, let me say Nigeria, Ghana, we were there to demonstrate some of our skills, things that we do. So a lot of people realize that some people have a lot of knowledge, skills, capacity, and when it comes to investigating cyber, there are approaches. I may do something, maybe you are now coming to do that. So I want to suggest that when it comes to capacity building, maybe when we integrate knowledge sharing skills, like a program like this, I'll come and demonstrate how I investigated a case, the tools I used, and other thing. Another country comes. If we do integrate this thing and incorporate it, it will help others to follow. And then that one, we will have mutual relationship. In Ghana, we are between Francophone countries. We have them around us. Cyber is borderless. It can happen anywhere. They can commit it in Ghana, they can go to France, they can go to Nigeria, they can go to Burkina, they can go to Cote d'Ivoire, or anywhere. So with this, I think it will bridge the gap. And then I also want to add other aspect of secondment. Maybe in your institution, you have tools, you have cyber equipment and other things. Somebody from another country, if there's an opportunity for the person to come officially to work with that institution for some time, he will also acquire the skills and the knowledge. And then when he goes somewhere, he can impact that one thing. So I want to suggest the attachment and secondment in that aspect, so we can enhance the fight of cyber crime. And then finally, we have tools. In Ghana, for instance, I may get a case that I need a tool. If the tool cannot extract what I want, I need to see another person. Sometimes we go to the FBI, legal attaché, they come to us, then we explain the problem, and then we give them the request. It can be formal or informal. If there's a good resource, then the formal need to be initiated such that we can tender that one in court as evidence to help something. So normally in Ghana here, most of the cyber cases that we investigate, I can say 70% of them are not from here. It's from either countries outside. It can be Europe, it can be US, or otherwise. So we need just this, my small input. Thank you.
Thank you. This is actually, I think we're out of time. I think this is actually really helpful. And I think probably all of you have examples of within region corporations of the different countries. Do you want to share a little bit about how that functions within your own networks?
Thanks. So thank you so much for your inputs. I think you provided a lot of very good ideas. But I also like to point out that these ideas are already implemented and in the pipeline, at least in all of the projects of the World Bank with a cybersecurity component. I think, for example, that the delegation from Somalia will visit the Ghanaian CERT in this week. So this is an example. I cannot speak specifically about cybercrime investigation because it's not really an area of the World Bank. But this knowledge sharing is already happening. There are a lot of cyber drills that are conducted globally, regionally, not only financed by the World Bank, but ITU is very active. Africa CERT is very active. So this is something that is happening already. And then I would also take this occasion to respond to a previous question about what to do when there are levels of maturity that are very different. So of course this is a challenge because at least in the Africa region you have countries that are mature with several iterations of policies and so on, and countries that are just starting. But at the same time, there's also an opportunity. So first of all, there are a lot of differences, but there is also some common ground. So most countries are in the process of identifying, for example, a mandated entity, putting together a national strategy, putting together a CERT. And we often said that most of the solutions are based on models that work in developed countries. So having this difference can be beneficial for the countries that are starting now to see models that are really tailored on developing context and not necessarily on developed context. And finally, another opportunity is that these countries are different from, I don't know, US, Canada, Europe, and so on, because they're not in the position which they already have a digital environment which is quite advanced, and they have to add cybersecurity on the top. They can actually, build infrastructure assets that are secured by design. So there are challenges, but also opportunities. But definitely, sharing knowledge and experience and secondment and so on are very valuable inputs. Thank you.
Thank you. And because we have 3 minutes left, I'm going to, I think, ask you for final remarks. What are some of the recommendations from the lessons learned that you have to other regional centers, to people in the audience? I think maybe we start with Saya, go around, and come back to you, Giacomo.
Thank you. I think just one or two best practice that we have observed from the Pacific that is crucial for effective cyber capacity building is not just the recipient countries taking ownership, but also being involved in or leading the co-design of the program itself. Also, we noticed that in some cases, cyber capacity building usually just like they start from zero over and over. I think that they should look into the country and see what's already been done successfully, and then just build on that instead of just starting from scratch over and over again, because you waste resources and also waste time. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, what I could say to jump what Seydou say, I think that the role of those regional center is also to give and to share knowledge, to provide training, but it's also to have a role in the regional cooperation, and for instance to align some of the lack and to find solution together with all the partners. And it's also, for instance, to fight against some idea that, for instance, what I listened when I just arrived in this new job, because before I was in the French army, so from the operational side, that in this area, in the Western Balkans, we don't need to have some training for crypto, for instance. It's totally wrong. And when we met in Dakar, we organized a seminar on, in fact, the e-scam, and we are all together agree with the fact that we have to tackle criminality and financial in a financial way. And one part of the gain of the criminality that is transferred by cryptocurrency, even in the region. When you read the report of the Chainalysis, I'm sorry, but Chainalysis has a lot of tools. It's a US tool, but the important thing is to know how to use those tools. And when you can read inside that even a small country like Togo the neighbors of Ghana, well, it is in the top 6 of the transfer of cryptocurrency in the African continent. So, well, we have to prepare them to fight against money laundering, to prepare them to size wallets, and in fact, prepare the future.
I would also like to address quickly the question from the audience, which I think it highlighted a very important issue of professional internships. This is, of course, not scalable, but it's a very, very exclusive approach. And unfortunately, we don't have Carlos Leonardo from the Dominican Republic CSIRT, the director and promoter of bear diplomacy in the room anymore. But hopefully, he is listening, because LAC4 is co-located with the Dominican Republic's National Cybersecurity Center in the CSIRT. And we are obviously supporting that. But if Carlos would be willing to accept a professional intern to his team, to his SOC, that would be a very great, I guess, new initiative, novel initiative that definitely we would be happy to consider.
Thank you. I think that establishing a strong foundation regionally brings also the strong global security and bolsters cyber capacity and resilience. But to say one thing, I think it's the most important factor in the whole picture are human resources. And if we don't have skilled human resources which generate knowledge, which are educated and which have a support in their activities in the future, and they are the one which share information, connect, do partnerships, and without them, I think it's all the infrastructure we set together is worthless. So I think that the most important thing is to have a proper human resource pool of experts which are constantly supported and trained, and that these are the real assets for to have a cybersecurity landscape sorted. There are AI options. I admit there are AI options, but never, I think never they will substitute completely the human part in the picture of the cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thanks. So I think we covered most of the good practices. I just would like to add that often in the same region there are different regional entities that are trying to implement the same programs. This, of course, is a useless duplication of effort, and it should be avoided. So more, dialogue among the different regional entities is, I think, is a very important aspect. And yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for staying with us. I think it's one of the last panels. Please join me in thanking the panelists in having this great discussion. And thank you for the questions from the audience as well.